crazy about a dress my wife had on. Now, they didn't say set the record straight. I bought the dress. And I like it. I don't care whether you like it or not. She ain't mad to y'all. She mad to me. Now, if you wanted a first lady that looked like Little House on the Prairie and Holly Hobby, you got the wrong church. I wanted a wife I would rush home to, and I wanted to be excited to see. When we walked in there, I said, shake your fast, watch yourself. If you don't have nobody that you excited about, trade that book again and find you somebody that Negroes can talk about. How did you bag that?
Hi, y'all. Happy New Year. It's been a more than a minute. But Happy New Year. Happy 2026. So what y'all just heard, we get into this Jamal, Bryant, Karri, Bryant situation, this whole dress of it all, the see-through dress, the flesh color dress. I'm really trying to figure out if this is clickbait or rage baiting, or clout chasing, because Pastor Bryant is no stranger to controversy, and his history calls into question a lot his character as it pertains to lust and just not being the best steward of what the word calls a husband and, quite frankly, a pastor to be. So if you haven't heard of this, and I'm not sure how at this point, but his wife had on a dress that had components that looked like it was, you could see her flesh. So people, whether you're in the church, outside of the church, is in an uproar. Everybody's talking about it. Now, Pastor Bryant is prone to these every so often. He does something that's outrageous, something that's going to get people talking. That's why I'm saying I'm not sure if this is clout chasing or rage baiting, because at this point, to be willfully obtuse and to act like he doesn't understand where people are coming from in their criticism of what his wife has on is, I don't understand that. And so his clapback, and which I included, basically alludes to the fact that he picked a dress. He wanted somebody that he could be excited to go home to, and he wanted somebody that other men would see and say, how did he get that? So essentially, he's created his wife to be an object of lust for other men, aka a stumbling block for other men, aka is expedient, but is it beneficial? Meaning, yeah, you can do it, but overall, is it beneficial to the body, and is it beneficial to your position as a pastor and her as their first lady, as well as also somebody who is in the ministry? So we're not talking fashion. We're not talking not knowing what to wear to certain events. I know for some people was like, well, she didn't wear it to church, so what's the difference? The difference to me is she is a pastor's wife. He is a pastor. To whom much is given, much is required. As leaders, they're called to a higher standard because they're supposed to set the standard. They're supposed to be an example for the rest of us. So, yeah, she looked cute. The body was, quote unquote, as the kids say, T. All of that, and that's her liberty to do so. She gets free will to do that. But was it beneficial to the body? Was it beneficial to potentially be a stumbling block? Was it beneficial to be an author of confusion? Was it beneficial? The word says that our body is the temple of God, and we are not our own. We were bought with a price. So that means we don't get to do whatever we want to do. So his wife is not created to be an object of lust for him or other men. He is to love her and to desire her. Absolutely. There isn't anything wrong with that. The issue is to intentionally create a stumbling block, and knowing that you're doing so and not caring because it's about your ego. You want to be able to pop your collars and pump your chest up and saying that my girl looks better than yours. And that's something that a rapper does. That's not something a pastor should be doing. So I think that's the issue that people had with this. Not to mention, she looks like, she already does not look like the typical, she fashions herself more what you would see like an IG girl would be, like a what the quote unquote IG model, right? So not that you cannot be beautiful. There's not beautiful women in the church, women who are shapely, women who have curves and all of those things. It's not that that's not there. It's just that we're to walk in modesty. Modesty doesn't mean that you're not attractive, you're not sexy or whatever. It just means that as much as it depends on you, you don't intentionally make yourself a stumbling block for someone else. There's also a place in the word where it says like you're if you're somebody who you can drink, but if you're in an atmosphere where your brother has an issue with that, you may not want to do that because you're your brother's keeper, you're your sister's keeper. So you may not want to do that because that could create an issue for them. As somebody who has been a pastor for a very, very long time, that should be something that him and his wife knows and understand and quite frankly should care about. But based on his history, this completely is within his wheelhouse for this to be a problem. So this is not a matter of fashion and wearing a dress that you wear to a gala versus what you don't wear to a gala. The idea is that you're purposefully, I don't even understand how that works because you have men and women in your church, I would presume. I'm assuming you have other married couples in there as well. How do you minister to those men when those wives come to you and say that my husband is doing XYZ, his eyes is wandering this, where, that, and the other place? How do you minister to that and correct that when you are going out your way to create an environment where that would feed into the issue that those particular men and or women would have? I don't understand. A lot of what he does, in my opinion, is very worldly. A lot of what he does is very much about him. Is very much how it makes him look. Is very much how it makes him feel. Very much ego driven and not very much word driven. And he basically further in that in his clapback, he basically talked about, essentially, to paraphrase, that if you don't have somebody that you're excited about, basically if you don't have somebody that you're attracted to, that's your problem. Change that person. But as for him, he wanted that. So in his mind, that means that should be on display. And I'm sorry, that's just not okay if you are a pastor and you're preaching the word. Our objective is not to be fashion forward. Not that we cannot be fashionable. Everything is Christ first, and then everything else is secondary. So if anything you want to do, you want to wear, you want to say, is counter to that, and you call yourself a believer, especially if you are a minister of the word, that's a no-go. That's a no bueno. That is a no. That's a non-negotiable. So he's just being his typical self. I'm sure in a couple of months or so, probably a few weeks or so, something else going to come up with him again, and he's going to trend, and we're going to be in an uproar about it. We're going to speak about it because it is more important for him to be the trending topic than for him to be a true minister of the word, in my opinion, because otherwise, he's far too intelligent to not understand what this means. And I know some people were kind of like, well, I used to dress like a granny when I was in the church, and because I thought that's how you had to dress. Like, we don't need to throw out the baby with the bathwater. There is surely a middle ground in there where you don't need to look like an old church mother, so to speak, if you're not an old church mother. But also, we don't need to go to the other end where it looks like we are just coming from the strip club either. So surely there's a middle ground, but The fact that he wants to pretend that he doesn't understand what the uproar is about this and felt the need to clap back just lets me know, in my opinion, where he stands and what he is about. And I marvel at the fact that people actually sit under this man for biblical leadership. And I don't know how, because 9 times out of 10, his movements does not reflect that. I think he gives more, is more permissive. It makes people feel comfortable in doing what they're not supposed to do because he is their leader. He is popular. He is known. You have an opportunity to see celebrities at his church. And there isn't really anybody there that can hold him accountable. Apparently not, nor his wife. And she seemed to be very okay with being an object of lust, not only for her husband, but potentially for other men as it feeds his ego. So that is my viewpoint on this whole dress debacle. I'm going to leave it there for now. Again, Happy New Year. I'm going to do a lot better this year than I did last year. Until next time.